Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of the Rich and Turbo Heavy Half Hour. You have myself, Rich, here today. Find me on X for now until it pisses me off again, technically, at Fuzz Doom Rip. All the other socials at Rich.Piva, doing reviews from Musipedia of Metal, and as a Doom Charts contributor. And very happy to have Turbo with us for this episode. Turbo, how you doing?
I'm good. Hi, everybody.
That is some cheery Turbo action right there. Thank you, Turbo. I'm very, very happy to have you back here after doing a couple solo, but we're very excited to have Steve and Alison from the band self-dubbed, I believe, Mile High Downer Rock, Burning Sister. How are you guys doing today, Alison and Steve? How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. How are you?
Yep, no complaints on our end.
Excellent. Love it. So we're here to talk, number one, fans of the band, for sure. And we're here to talk about the new record, which is called Ghosts. It came out on November 6th, I believe. You guys, as a band, have gone through a little bit of a change in both personnel and I think a little bit sonically as well, given that change in personnel. But for anyone who's might not be familiar with Burning Sister, can you guys give us a little bit of an overview of the band, what you guys do in the band, and a little bit about the new record, Ghost, if you don't mind?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Steve. I play bass and do vocals and a little bit of synth, like studio-wise. Alison, drummer. So we're a two-piece now. We've got a couple recordings. Few recordings actually is a three-piece. Our guitar player, our buddy, moved across country for greener pastures, and we were kind of at a crossroads. Like, what do we do? Do we just become a studio band? I started trying to learn how to play guitar just in case. Just started experimenting with gear and looking in to see what other two pieces have done in the past, and then just kind of came together after, I don't know, probably a good 8 months before we decided, hey, we can go on and do this as a two-piece for sure.
Very cool. And so I guess from an approach standpoint, you became, and listening to the first record compared to this record, there's obviously some sonic similarities, but like, what's that approach now that you're like a lead bass player? Is that like a different mindset going into recording? Because I think what I was reading was that these songs were originally put together as a trio, correct? And then you had to make some adjustments, or what was that like? I assume that's a big kind of different mindset going into recording stuff like that.
Yeah, a little bit. I would say 2/3 of the album was basically written with our guitar player. We will revisit some of our older catalog, try to see how it sounds as a two-piece, and it doesn't always work out. So there's only a few songs that have kind of followed us along up into this point. So yeah, songwriting's different. I have to take into consideration how everything's going to sound. Basically, what we do is we split bass signal into an octave up and then into multiple cabs. Try to emulate having a guitar player, so like lead work is kind of unless I'm doing some looping or anything like that, there's not like a whole lot of lead guitar or lead guitar sound from the bass. But yeah, a lot of times like a certain pedal or signal chain will kind of dictate how a song like kind of comes together and coalesces. I'll be messing around on guitar a little bit, and I'll be like, hey man, I wonder if this is gonna sound good. And yeah, and it's really interesting to work with these limitations, but at the same time, like, I don't even think we're close to like exhausting the possibilities. So it's a lot of experimentation, and for me anyways, it's kind of like, it's really fun, it's a blast. But it can also lead to frustration too. But yeah, we're kind of digging it so far.
I assume the limitations can also probably be somewhat of I don't want to say a freedom, but just kind of a different vibe of relying on guitars to be heavy and riff driven and being able to do something without that is very unique, and the sound that you guys get is very unique. Alison, I have to ask, like, you know, you have like a rhythm section, and now the rhythm section is also doing something else. How did that affect your drumming in any way? Did you have to kind of readjust how you were thinking when you were playing, or when you play live, maybe?
I don't know exactly. The way we write songs is also, I think, a little bit different. Like, I think to add to Steve's point, we write together a little bit more. Where some of our earlier albums, Steve would write, like, he'd hear a riff and he would hear the drums, and so he'd come to me and be like, I hear, and then he doesn't really speak drums, so he'd just be like, boom, boom, bang, bang. That would be frustrating. But I feel like now we're like messing around more frequently because I think we do have to experiment a bit more, and so the drumming is going with the riff instead of being added after. And I do think it kind of does change the overall sound. Sometimes it'll change how a song progresses and like how it builds even sometimes. So I feel like it's hard to answer that question in a sense because I just feel like the way the drums get written has changed too with this album.
But yeah, we jam a lot more. Like before, it would be, you know, I would write riffs basically in isolation and then kind of bring it to practice, and then we would build off that. It was always like riff was the first thing. Then we'd shoehorn like vocals, lyrics, and everything in there. But now I would say a good over half of our songs now are coming out of just jamming. And then as I'm playing, I've gotten a little bit better, like singing and playing bass at the same time. So I try to come up with vocal melodies as we're writing as well. So it's definitely feels like we've progressed in that department for sure.
Very cool. Yeah, the record came out great. It sonically doesn't really sound like anything else that I've been listening to really this year, which is very cool. Turbo, what do you have for Alison and Steve?
I guess just to expound a little bit on what you've been talking about, when I listened to this album, I thought it was more, damn, I forgot the word I was going to use. It seemed more open and wider as far as the sound goes, instead of tighter. You know, but it sounds really good the way you come. Do you feel like that's because that you did it without a guitar player, that you got to get that sound?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I know like Allison has progressed as a drummer for sure, and that kind of helps open up the songs too. Um, I think the way we write, we're a little bit more open to incorporating different influences. You know, initially when I started the band, you know, it was just us two before we found a guitar player, and I was like, we're going to be a traditional doom band, but like we never. I don't think that ever came across like at any point in anything that we've done. So, but yeah, now I think we're a little bit more open to, you know, not sounding a certain way and just pulling in outside influences for sure.
Did you get any help from like the production team, or like I see that Tad mastered it? Did how was it working? Did you get to work with him, or he just do that and get back with you?
No, I would love to work them. I would love to, you know, go out to Seattle and, you know, go to Witch Ape Studios and actually cut a record. We you know, we talked a little bit about the sound. After he did the first album, I had complete faith in, you know, what he would do for this time around. Um, actually, Chad Remains from Gorat and Ex Uzula, he's the one that told me, you know, I was like, hey man, I'm going to press records. Who would you recommend for mastering? And Ted was one of the top two names that he recommended, so I kind of went with that. And we're very, very pleased with how the record sounded, so we stuck with that. But the guy that we recorded with, his name is Jamie Hillier, and he's recorded tons of bands over the years around the like Denver area, all different styles of music. So he'll definitely give input for sure, and it's kind of it's fun to be in the studio and be a part of the mixing process. Um, but he's always open to experiment and try new things. Um, so as far as like having an actual producer, we didn't have one. We're just basically self-produced. Um, I'm not opposed to working with a producer, but part of it's just schedule, money, that type of thing. But yeah, he's the guy that we worked with in the recording studio, Jamie. He's definitely versed in heavy music and heavy metal and rock and roll, so that's very helpful for sure.
Were you a Tad fan prior to this? Yeah. Yeah, I know Turbo and I love Tad. What's interesting was when I listened to sonically the record, when I think of Tad for some reason, and I think of the live Alien broadcast record that he did, where it was like a live in the studio record, and the sound on that to me is like raw and perfect sounding, and I kind of feel like that's where this record goes sonically, where it's like, I don't want to say muddy, but it's not perfect at all. Like his major label albums, I think were still, grungy enough, but still had this polish on it. But if you go to like Live Alien broadcasts, he kind of takes that polish away and he becomes like these raw songs, which I feel like he would be an expert in bringing out in a recording. So it's cool that you were a Tad fan before you kind of started to work with him.
Brothers of the Sonic Cloth too. His other band, which seems like they're on hiatus, but we're fortunate we caught them here in Denver when they played like, I don't know, 8 years ago. But I'm a huge Brothers of the Sonic Cloth fan too, as well as Tad.
Very cool.
Like record, it's interesting because the mastering process really did change the sound. So a lot of the synth work on the new album is like, when you're listening to it, to me, it's like really in the background and obvious than anything, and you can't even really tell, what's going on. And I'm kind of cool with that. So,
because on the first record there was like, especially on a couple songs, there were keys like right up on the front, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, and yeah, this gives a little bit more of an atmospheric, less of a an upfront driving with the keys and more of kind of that atmospheric, which I think maybe Turbo is where you're getting some of that expansive sound vibes from. Also, you guys mentioned influences. I'd love to hear where you're coming from there, just because I hear some stuff and I read some stuff in the bios and stuff, but I always love to hear kind of where it comes from, to maybe confirm what I'm hearing, or maybe just now hear something completely different that maybe you were thinking when you were putting this record together.
Yeah, good question. We were listening to quite a bit of different things. Even initially during the first initial songwriting part, and then after our guitarist left, it's kind of hard to say because we'll have all these influences, stuff I'm listening to, things that I want to like kind of include, but I mean, the degree to how much actually comes across is debatable. But some of the stuff that we're really heavily listening to, like a ton of Low, like we're huge Low fans. Listening to a lot of Swerve Driver. Personally, I was listening to like Unwound nonstop, especially since they were getting back together to play shows. And then of course, like some of the usual suspects, like Electric Wizard, Yob, that type of thing, Wind Hand. But I think probably the more, even like The Cure, stuff like that, I was really listening to a lot of the, more gothic, post-punk type stuff. And then I read a lot of music bios too, so I read Peter Hick's New Order books. I was listening to a ton of New Order, and but I don't think any of that comes across in anything that we really wrote.
The Electric Wizard is definitely something you get. I get the Electric Wizard side, but it's I love how you kind of call out Swerve Driver. Swerve Driver to me is one of the most underrated bands like ever on the planet, and there's a lot more shoegaze and stuff these days than people might want to even admit in what you hear in a lot of the heavy underground stuff when they start building these swirling guitars and building this atmosphere and having the melody under kind of that wall of sound that I feel like Swerve Driver were experts at. And Low is such an underrated band too. Like no one mentions Low to me ever. But like back in the day, I definitely was in a very heavy indie rock phase, and Low was like kind of a champion of that. Kind of that, I want to say lo-fi, but kind of darky and lo-fi and not doom, but like doom adjacent, I guess you could say. Low would be. Yeah, so cool stuff. And right now is a big time for duos, with the White Stripes being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which was I guess pretty cool. It was also weird, and at least Jack White mentioned a bunch of cool bands that should be there also. So hey, duos right now. Obviously, bass and drums a little different. I don't know if you saw that, but there was a band, 21 Pilots did Seven Nation Army on that, and it was interesting because it's a bass and a drum. They did it with a bass and a drummer without a guitar player, and it was actually pretty cool. I mean, it's 21 Pilots, but it's pretty cool. Don't take my podcast away for saying something by 21 Pilots is cool, but it was, especially when you start looking at kind of the dynamics of leaving a guitar out of one of the most famous riffs that probably is on the planet right now, which is also a weird thing to say. Turbo, I've blathered for a little while. So what else do you have for them?
I was checking out your video for Dead Love. Is that a Rorschach test going on in there, or?
No. I mean, it looks like it for sure. No, that was just me like manipulating like video that we had taken like up in the mountains, putting mirror effects, putting filters on it, and just making like kind of more of a visualizer than an actual video. But yeah, just manipulating, and we try to do as much as we can in house, whether it's like band photos, like artwork, and music videos, and that type of thing. We try not to ship too much of that out. We can't help it.
That was really cool. I liked it. I would see a lot of different things, and I wasn't sure if I was seeing them. And
Right.
my internet was running slow, and it's every now and then it would buffer and stop on a certain scene or something. I was like, "Oh wow, that wasn't what I expected."
Turbo had a therapy session watching your video.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of after I watched it back a few times, like definitely a lot of like kind of happy accidents in there for sure.
And it's funny you mention the guitarist leaving for greener pastures. I'm not sure there are much more greener pastures in Denver, Colorado at this point. But like, is Denver because I see like a lot of nature in your video, in your album cover. Does that like influence you in your music and how you write, where you live? Are you lifelong Denver peeps, or is this something that you've kind of come to and now adopted? Because I feel like there's a vibe in your music of where you're from.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like that's a little bit the joke about Denver. Like anyone that's actually from here doesn't hike as much as all the transplants.
Yeah, it's like. Yeah, it's like Florida. We never go to the beach here. I live here. I never go to the beach. It's right there, but never. So.
Exactly. Yeah, it's exactly the same. So yeah, I know we're both from the Midwest originally, but we've been out here for long enough to, I don't know, make it matter, like 20 years. And yeah, I think we just love to hike and camp, and I don't know if it influences our music, but yeah, he's taken like ambient audio from just like the wind from our tent, like all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
And then yeah, video footage, all kinds of different ways that it's probably seeped in.
Yeah, as far like consciously, I can't really pinpoint, but I'm sure like on some subconscious like mystical level, like the mountains and nature and surrounding area probably all influences kind of the final product. I used to, when we'd be backpacking, I would definitely bring like demos and try to write lyrics with very mixed results, but a little bit. But yeah, been in the Denver area for quite a while at this point. But I'm originally from outside Detroit.
Oh yeah, and I'm from Chicago. A little bit
Okay.
Colorado mountain.
Yeah. I feel like Colorado is like, that's where the Midwest people go, and just like the Northeasterners come to Florida. So it's like it's just cold where you are, and not, everyone just winds up here. It's funny with the nature thing. I'm a big fan of the band Florist. One of my new favorite bands. They're from Florida, and I was interviewing them. We were talking to them, and they're like, "Do you know the sound that you're hearing? You're only a Floridian if you know the sound that you're hearing at the beginning of the song." I'm like, I don't know, man. It just sounded like a weird guitar something that you did, and they have a synth player and they're like, no, it was a sandhill crane just screaming, and I'm like, I get it now. A sandhill crane screaming. It works perfectly in your music. So it's just interesting how bands can bring in kind of where they live and where they're from, and maybe not even realize that kind of vibe to it. So was there, when you, and I don't see this as much. I see it in your Twitter, in your X handle, or your Instagram handle. But for a while, it was Mile High, Down to Rock. That was kind of what you were known for, and that's kind of what your moniker was. And that's what the first record's called. Where did that come from, other than it being the perfect description for the music that you guys put out?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Denver's the Mile High city, so we kind of wanted to, include that a little bit as part of like the band identity, I guess. But the first time I heard the term Downer Rock, I don't know, it kind of just stuck with me, and I'm a huge Black Sabbath fan, and I've heard them referred to as Downer Rock, and I'm like, then there's Ancient Grease Records, puts out a lot of the real underground, like lost albums from the 70s. I've seen them kind of throw the term around, and I just wanted to kind of, we're not like definitely a full on doom band, you know. So I just thought Downer Rock was like a good descriptor for, we're still playing slow and heavy. I don't. Some people might not get the, that we're not necessarily a doom band, but I just thought, yeah, I like the sound of it. It kind of went with the vibe we were going for sure.
Love it. Why did you decide at the beginning that you were going to be a doom band? Like, what was it? Sabbath that pushed you in that direction, or was there something else that was saying we're going to be a doom band because of this, or that just was kind of the way that you were thinking, or what you were into at the time?
Yeah, definitely into it. Still heavily into doom, like doom metal. Um, like, just digging deep, all the Italian bands, all the East Coast doom bands, and that's basically all I was listening to almost on a daily basis when we formed the band. It was probably like 6 years ago at this point, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I had a bass basically just collecting dust in my closet, and kind of broke it out with the intention of getting good enough and getting a band together, and that's kind of what happened. And doom just seemed the direction to go in at the time.
And Alison, are you a doom fan too, or were you like, I'm down, but like, maybe not, maybe something else? Maybe, what was your opinion at the time when this was all coming together?
Yeah, well, definitely, it's probably a more acquired taste for me. It's just like all in, yeah, do it. But I feel, well, we like have caught enough like live acts, which I always love to see any band live. Like it's just so fun to watch, and like got a sense, I think, a little bit of like, I don't know, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but like the space in between like the drums and some of these bands, and like just their ability to kind of like keep it like really slow, which still is an ongoing struggle for me. But I don't know, just, and then like we were lucky enough to meet Earth, and I think like that's a really cool. I love watching her drum in particular. So I think it was an acquired taste, but I'm on board.
Although there was a point where she came up to me and she was like, "Hey, it's like sometimes I'm listening to, my bands and the music I like, and I wish it was heavier." So that was like a green light to me. I was like,
Wow, there you go. Like, who are we talking about here? Like, what are these bands that you wish you were heavier? Like, tell me.
I definitely have more of like an indie rock love, or would you even call it maybe, but like, I like the band. I love the band Blind Pilot, Lord Huron. Um, really into Sharon Van Etten. So they're just not quite as, I don't know. It's just a very different genre.
It's an interesting combination. And when I think Americana, I kind of go back to some of the early late '90s and early 2000s, like Sun Volt and Wilco, and big Magnolia Electric Company fan too, which is just if you like Neil Young, you like that. But that's a really interesting combination of those kind of influences. If you were, I'll start with you, Alison, but just from an influence standpoint, from your playing, is there anybody who you look at and you're like, that's the drummer who I would love to sound like, or that I have kind of listened to and been like, yeah, that's where a lot of what I'm doing or what I want to do comes from?
I don't know if I exactly want to like be them, but like I mean, Steve already mentioned Low, but like I love Mimi Parker. I could never sing as well as her, but maybe one day. And it comes anywhere close, like even in the like satellite orbiting her like satellite would be amazing. I feel like it's more just I don't know if there's people that I just want to emulate or like stuff that I just think is so amazing to watch. Like drummers that can be like so fluid and do like such complicated stuff but make it look like so simple. Like we just saw Cloakroom last week and like doing really complicated stuff and making it look like nothing. Just these little tiny extra things he's doing that you can like pick up better when you see him live. And yeah, I don't know.
Another great underrated band, Cloakroom. Love them. Steve, how about you? Is there, from a playing standpoint, anybody outside of some of the obvious ones who we might hear in your work, but anybody who you would call out?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's probably easier for me to name like bassists that made me even want to pick up a bass
Did we lose
to
him?
begin with. I think initially, like, I've been listening to Black Sabbath since I was like in kindergarten. I had an older brother; he had all the Ozzy tapes, and all the Sabbath tapes. So definitely, like, on Paranoid, like that's the first time where like a bass guitar stood out to me, and I was like, "Whoa, that's cool!" Like, it's like a whole nother sound that these songs wouldn't be the same without it. But when I got like a little bit older and decided to actually pick up a bass, probably strange influences, but like Naomi Yang from Galaxy 500 was like kind of an epiphany. Like she plays really high, really like melodic bass lines. Kim Deal from the Breeders, really love, and Pixies, really love her bass playing. But probably like the biggest, more contemporary reason I picked up Dale Flatham from a band called Steel Pole Bathtub.
I love Steel Pole Bathtub. Wonderful. I got to see them, and I had no idea who they were. They opened for Faith No More on the King for a Day tour in like a tiny club. And I was standing right in front of her. I'm like, what the hell is going on right now? It was glorious. I recently paid way too much for Scars from Falling Down on vinyl. But yeah, what a great band.
Yeah. So yeah, they're kind of back together. They're active again, which is cool. And the keyboard player from Neurosis is now in the band. So
oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So fingers crossed to get some new material, but. Yeah, him, and then also like another noise rock band, Cows. Supposed to be playing that. Kind of real dirty, like the noise rock type bass. And then like the Jesus Lizards, another like my bass playing isn't even close to sounding like that, but definitely one of the main reasons I decided to pick up a bass for sure.
Very cool. This is my first interview where Steel Pole Bathtub and Low have been mentioned, which makes me extremely happy. And it's cool that a lot of these kind of 90s post-hardcore / noise rock bands are back together. The Jesus Lizard record from last year was amazing. Share to Think is back together now, another band that I absolutely love. So we'll see what happens with them. So very, very cool stuff. And I also see why you're not a doom band anymore too, based on kind of all of that stuff equals more of this than more of your traditional doom stuff. Turbo, what else do you have for them before we wrap up?
Considering saying that you don't feel like they're a doom band anymore, do you feel your band name is still sufficient enough to describe what you're doing? Where did the Burning Sister come from?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So, I think we went under a couple different names initially, especially when we were making demos. Well, there's tons of bands out there that take their band name from like a song from another band. I mean, look at Eric's Trip. Can't think of any more, but there's a lot. But it's actually a Amandul 2 song. So 70s krautrock band that I'm a pretty big fan of, and the first time I saw it, I was like, Burning Sister. I was like, yeah, that could actually come kind of encapsulate quite a bit, whether it's like doom, garage rock, like whatever. It just seemed to kind of work and fit, and we just stuck with it.
Love it. I think we might have to have an episode where you just show us your record collection, because I feel like I would see some of that stuff and I'd be like, oh my god. Just what was the label that you mentioned with some of the rare 70s records?
Cool. Ancient Greece Records. Yeah,
okay.
They're active. They put out like a ton of 7 inches, but they also have a full album.
All right. I'm sure there'll be a box coming to my house very soon at this point.
New avenue to explore.
Yeah, and now, I'm spending money while doing my podcast. It's wonderful. But guys, thank you so much. This has been awesome. Again, huge fans of the band. I think Ghosts is like just another step up, and it could have gone a different way. Obviously sonically without having a guitar player, but I reached out because I love the record, and even the song "Broke Dick Icarus" sounds like a name of a Tad song or a Jesus Lizard song or one of those kind of crazy bands. So love the record, love what you guys are doing, love the sound. I think it's unique, and no one really sounds like what you guys are doing, especially on Ghosts. So. I guess one other question that I had was I've seen some pictures of you guys playing, or some videos on Instagram of you guys playing out and doing some shows. Are you guys have some stuff scheduled, or what's that looking like?
The only thing we have scheduled so far is like July 2026. We'll be heading to Rapid City. Left of the Dial Radio plays us, and they reached out, and we played this past year, and it was like one of the greatest shows we've played. Like, everybody is like so down for live music there. It was great. So
that's awesome.
Looking forward to that. The past 2 years we actually did Midwest tours, but sadly this year we both have new jobs, so time off is far and few between. But yeah, towards the end of this year we're gonna have to start talking about and see what we're available to do, and I'm sure we'll pick up some more local shows, but I definitely want to play more regionally and beyond if possible.
Very cool. Yeah. I hope I someday get to see you guys live. For now, I will revel in the record and the shirt, which are both available on Bandcamp right now. There's even a test pressing or 2 left, which you get something special with that, right? It's a different. See, now I'm looking at it. I'm like, why don't I have a test pressing? This is the rabbit hole that I go down. This is my pain. This is the cross I bear. But anyway, the new Burning Sister record is called Ghosts. It's awesome. Everyone should go check it out, especially if you want to hear something heavy, but not your normal heavy that you're getting. Heavy with lots of other stuff. Heavy with just a drums and just bass and some synths. Minimalist, but so much going on. Check it out. The new Burning Sister record is awesome, and thank you to Alison and Steve for being on the show. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a great night.